Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's stream is all about news from across the South. I know it's been a minute since we have done this, and there's been so much going on, so I decided to come on and do a quick live with upcoming news from across the South. So, as always, everything here is presented for education and entertainment purposes only. Thank you for joining me on a Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. This is the community where everything we discuss here is all about the community and the culture. Therefore, we do growth and not gossip. So, if this is your first time here, thank you for joining me. And if you are a part of the replay game, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All right. So we are on our road to 1,000 subscribers. We'd like to thank everybody who was a part of our first milestone, and we are continuing to pump out great content that I hope you enjoy each and every week. So today we will be talking about news across the South. As I like to say, the new South ain't nothing but the old South. So here we go. News from across the South. First up, congratulations again to our fellow friends in New Orleans for being the recipients of the Super Bowl in 2025. So we're going to see what is going on with the plans for that.
I think the reality is that we're not going to get the full list of over 500 projects done, but we are going to get a substantial portion done. And those are going to be ones that are in the most important or visible or critical areas, and they're going to last for decades after that.
Lots to do. Work is already underway to get New Orleans Super Bowl ready. With roughly 8 months to go until the big game, today we learned more about the projects the city and state plan to undertake between now and February. Lily Cummings shows us what they are and how much they'll cost.
It's an ambitious goal. More than 500 projects are slated between now and Super Bowl 59. Most of them will happen in the area surrounding the dome, including the CBD, Warehouse District, and French Quarter. Outside of the dome, you may notice that Poydras Street is already under construction. It's one of 67 projects aimed at repairing and resurfacing roads. 46 projects are intended to target crumbling and hazardous sidewalks like this one. 40 projects will target flooding, including here on Canal Street. 75 projects will fix broken lights along the interstate from the French Quarter to the Crescent City connection. Speaking of, the lane closures happening right now on the CCC are yet another project. They're installing these lights. It's expected to be complete in December. Efforts to rehouse individuals and close encampments will continue. Plus, underpasses like this one at Earhart and South Claiborne will turn into green spaces. And are you worried about the hundreds of thousands of fans killing cell signal? Verizon, AT&T, Cox, and Entergy are teaming up to bring 5G to the CBD. You may be wondering just how much all of this is going to cost. We're told between $40 and $60 million. The money is coming from private, city, and state funding. We'll keep you updated on the progress. Really coming.
So there you have it. Those are the plans for Super Bowl in New Orleans. So let's go back through and look at some of the things that they are doing. So there are 50 projects planned for 500 plus projects planned for Super Bowl 59, including the Dome and the Warehouse District and the French Quarters. So here, first thing you notice is she says there are already 46 projects. 46 projects. Sidewalks. So again, there have been citizens who have been complaining about these sidewalks for months, if not years, and yet it took the city to get the Super Bowl to finally do something about it. This is the one that I had to stop at. Flood prevention projects. The fact that it took landing the city landing the Super Bowl to once again do flood mitigation on Canal Street. Drop a one in the comment if you are one of my Cajun Creole Acadiana residents down there in New Orleans, because this is absolutely insane that this is happening. Bridge. Look at the long stretches without the lighting. And the ones that are there don't work, which is what they're telling you. So not only are they actually going to fix the ones that are actually supposed to be there, they're actually going to do an infrastructure project basically that they can keep for Mardi Gras. And last but not least, the one thing that the Super Bowl always does is make sure it makes things even more difficult for people who are at the very, very bottom, which would be our unhoused. So, given the government of New Orleans right now, there is nothing surprising about what is currently taking place. So, hopefully, everything will be ready in time for the Super Bowl. But hey, let's be honest, they've already told us it's not going to be. And more than likely, a lot of those projects will not benefit people who actually are long term residents of the city. Because that's the way Super Bowls, Olympics, all those things work out. So, since we're in New Orleans, let's stay there for a second because this is something that all Gulf Coast residents need to be mindful of. Again, if you are just joining us, we are just taking a little trip down south to see what is happening with our friends there.
Which would tighten the timeline for parish and city leaders to issue evacuations. With this in mind, some adjustments have been made to assisted evacuation spots. Leah McNeil joins us now from one of those evacu spots in the French Quarter.
Well, riding around the city of New Orleans, it's not too hard to find these. They're pretty big stick figures and they're called evacu zones. They were created after Hurricane Katrina to let people know about the designated spots available to be picked up if they need help getting out of the city in an event of a mandatory evacuation. But in recent years, that has changed. According to Rich Chapman, the deputy director of the New Orleans Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, if an evacuation is called, all bus stops will be routed to the Smoothie King Center or the Convention Center, where you will be taken out of the city.
The reason we do a system like that is we want to make sure that there's access around the entire city, and it's so that there's no spots where people have to travel long distances by foot to be picked up and then make it to the actual location to get out of town.
There's a similar plan in Jefferson Parish. In JP, you can go to any bus stop too. If you're on the West Bank, you will be dropped off at the Alario Center. East Bank folks will end up at the Vineyard Church and then be driven out of the parish. Joseph Valiente, the director of emergency management for the parish, says that if there is a mandatory evacuation, a lot goes into determining if it will be issued. From there, things will happen pretty quickly. Bottom line, he says, if you can leave, you should.
Sheltering in place is never a best option for a hurricane. It's always better to evacuate, even if it's just for 24 hours, to get out of harm's way from the initial impact and threats, and then coming back 24 hours later.
Now, mind you, these plans will only be implemented if there is a mandatory evacuation that is called. But again, because these storms rapidly intensify, there may not be enough time to get everyone out safely. With that in mind, there are plans in place in both Orleans and Jefferson Parish to take in folks who don't have enough time to get out safely.
So that's really important now that we are in the hurricane season, and NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, something your tax dollars go to, has predicted this is going to be a very active season. So we are telling people out there to be safe, to be prepared, to be alert, and to make sure that they have a plan. Make sure you have your supplies. Make sure you know where your people are going to meet. If you are evacuating alone, if you are not, if you have elderly people that you need to consider, like I do in my family, people who have medications, if this is your first rodeo and you're not used to doing this, get with an experienced veteran, someone who does know what they are doing in this particular area, and make sure that you are um, make sure that you are prepared for hurricane season. Now we're going to make our way over to Arkansas. We're going to make our way over to Arkansas and see what Lectern Gate governor has been up to at the State House and her fellow legislatively complicit compatriots. Let's see what's going on in Arkansas.
Senate, and if passed, it could cut rates for personal and corporate income tax. What this means is depending on how you set up your deductions, you will either see a bigger paycheck or a larger tax return. As the top tax rate would be sliced in half, and for anyone making over $25,000 a year. To make this happen, Governor Sanders is planning to use part of the state's $700 billion surplus.
I had to run that back. Over 25,000. The top tax rate will be sliced in half for anybody making over 25,000. I want you to think about if you make, let's say, $35,000, and let's just say the rate was 7%, and you make 300,000 and the rate was 10%. The people who are at the top are going to get a much, much bigger benefit than the people at the bottom. And yes, I know they are paying more, but something like this also helps them more. And when you have a state like Arkansas that has a great need, the question becomes, what is the purpose of doing this? And you're going to hear from one of the legislatures about some of those needs that these tax dollars should be funding, including part of that surplus, because that money is taxpayer money, but it's collected in order to help all Arkansans.
As the top tax rate would be sliced in half, and for anyone making over $25,000 a year. To make this happen, Governor Sanders is planning to use part of the state's $700 billion surplus, but her Democratic counterparts think that money should go elsewhere.
We don't meet the needs. Many people who need mental health services end up in prison or end up homeless. So how can we justify letting go of that revenue before we fix those kinds of problems?
That is a damn good question that Arkansas has never answered. Now, I'm not going to go up here in Arkansas shame and go through the stats about how these people are always at the bottom of the barrel in all the stats of all of the states. Oh, this is the internet is tripping. All right. So we do have one more story that we do want to get to. Today is election. Oh, we have two more stories. We're going to get to the college professors right quick. If I can get YouTube to actually cooperate. And we're going to talk about these college professors for whatever reason have decided that it is their business why some student misses their class. Now, I don't know why. I don't know why these people feel. All right. So every Tuesday, somewhere in America, there is an election going on. For whatever reason, I cannot get this to stop acting crazy. This is frustrating right now. So let's see if I can get this to do what I needed to do finally. So if you are anywhere in Oklahoma today, make sure that you are heading out to vote.
Well, today is special election day in Oklahoma. Voters already cast ballots on their party's presidential nominees and in other federal races. Today, they'll vote on state and local races. You can find details about polling locations where you live and links to sample ballots on 5newsonline.com. We'll bring you the results starting tonight on your 5 News at 10.
Last but not least, we do have one other story we want to get to about these god awful college professors. And then we have our bonus story that comes to us from the state of Maryland. And we are very, very, very excited for our the citizens of Maryland who are going to be helped by the actions of their governor. So while we are waiting for YouTube to do what I need it to do, we are going to play this short clip from now. This. Here we go. Some days being a Texan is hard, you guys. Some days our citizens, our legislature goes out of its way to do things that are just harmful and toxic. And that is the only way we can describe what is happening here.
Bigger in Texas, like the fucking audacity. Two college professors are suing their school to find out about their students' sex lives. Professors Daniel Bonovic and John Hatfield, who look like if every white happened to a NutriBullet and this is what came out, are suing the University of Texas at Austin, where they complain, teach, to be allowed to fail their students if they miss class to get an abortion. How is that any of their business, especially at a university that offers faculty and staff time off for abortions? In their filing, which really reads more like an incel's blog, they write pregnancy is not a disease and elective abortions are not healthcare, and other absolutely untrue, harmful, factually incorrect garbage like pregnancy is the result of voluntary and consensual sexual intercourse. Therefore, students who miss class for abortion should be punished. Again, I cannot reiterate harder that these men not only have degrees, but are in charge of teaching other people. This lawsuit is likely not going to go anywhere because though abortion is completely banned in Texas, Title IX is not, and that prevents double standards for men and women. So go ahead, Dumb and Dumber, attack your female students, but if your fellow dudes need to take off for a sports injury related surgery, will that be an issue? While clearly I am hearing the Kill Bill siren on full blast here, this isn't funny. This is what abortion advocates are talking about when we say Roe was just the beginning. Weirdos like these dudes have been waiting in the wings for excuses to violate and control women. And now Texas and states with similar laws are opening the doors for them to do just that. Also, this goes without saying, but if your professor wants to know anything about your sex life, go talk to somebody immediately. That is not okay. They say everything's bigger in Texas, like the fucking audacity. Two college professors are suing their school.
I have to agree. Number one, if any professor, as someone who has been a victim of some very unhinged and out of control behavior by college professors, if they want to know where you live, if they want to know where your apartment is, if they want to know who you're dating, if they want to know where you work, especially where you work or where you live is off campus, please do not share this information with these people. And I'm just not going. I'm glad she said it with her full chest because when I saw the video, who the two people were that were filing this lawsuit to want any female student who takes off from class to basically have to prove that they were actually quote unquote sick or give a reason or come with proof of a reason as to why they were not in class that day. But if you were hungover, if you were drunk, if you were high, if you were on a vacation, if you were out shopping, for whatever reason, you happen to miss class as an adult student, you have privacy and body autonomy, and it should not be infringed upon. So, last but not least, we have our bonus story, which is not our business because this is not news from the Deep South, but I do want to give a super kudos and a really big shout out to Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, who did something pretty awesome on behalf of his residents. And I will let him tell you about it.
1,000 people were pardoned for low-level marijuana convictions in Maryland. The Maryland governor's administration is calling the move historic and long overdue after Maryland voters decided to make recreational marijuana use legal back in 2022. The governor says it represents only one step in the process of addressing cannabis-related convictions.
Cannabis records that are keeping them from gaining access to education and housing and employment.
The pardons will apply to people convicted of misdemeanor possession and for possession with intent to use drug paraphernalia.
So these are private citizens who may have been caught with small amounts of plant material, who may have had their entire career and lives ruined. So we definitely want to give a super shout out to the governor of Maryland, Governor Moore, and a very big congratulations to all of those people. If you know somebody in Maryland who may have had a conviction for possession, please make sure you reach out to them. Once the governor has issued their pardon, they can get their record expunged and sealed. No one will be able to access their arrest record or any other aspect of their judicial adjudication, and they will be able to go on with their blessed lives. Well, guys, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you so much, as always. If you are part of the replay gang, I hope you learned something today. We will be doing these at least a couple of times a week. And I am actually getting ready to go live later on this evening to talk about a story that has national importance. But of course, if it touches on the community, the culture, or life down here in the South, you know I'm on it. So with that being said, thank you for giving me about 20 minutes of your time. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as I tell you, every time you are gracious enough to give me just a little bit of your time, I hope blessings shapes you down. I hope trouble never finds your door. There is power and purpose within you, so level up. The community needs that. There are lots of hurting people out here, so if you come across one, give them a little space and give them a little grace. And if you get the opportunity today, guys, to be kind, please be that. And with that, y'all, be safe.